Just bright. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in. Getting this together. Getting this together. I look like a like a gold Power Ranger. Oh my gosh. Hilarious. Hilarious. That's good. A wise dream. Doing all right. Working on getting motivated. I know that's right. What's up, Miss Vanessa? Good afternoon. I'm feeling pretty good. How are you? I'm doing pretty swell. Doing pretty good today. Doing pretty good. What's good, Mystic? Hope you're doing well. Welcome in to the new viewers if this is your first time. I am Four Seasons, and this is the Four Seasons with Four Seasons podcast. Um, Shout outs to the Four Seasons community for my regulars. Thank y'all for coming in and always holding it down for me. Um, this is a space curated by us all to be open, honest, and vulnerable surrounding topics that are affiliated with mental health, relationships, self esteem, goal setting, and goal achieving, as well as accountability. So we really get into it. We get into the real. And as scary as it may be sometimes, I think it's often necessary for us to just be honest sometimes about what season we're in, where we're at right now, and how we're feeling, right? So, in the vein of that, we're doing our check in. So, how are we all feeling right now? I'm feeling pretty good. I am feeling excited about the month of February that we're in. I am looking forward to seeing how it goes because it is a very short month, only a few weeks this month. So, I'm excited to see how it's going. I already feel like the year has gone by so fast right now. Like January's over and I feel like we just got into January, right? So I am thankful to still be here, to still be going strong. Um, if you guys were here last week, I was talking about rounding out or finishing out my fast that I've been doing with my church for the whole month of January. And a lot of reflection on that. So if you're interested in seeing more of that, go ahead and join the YouTube. Dropped it in the chat. All the VODs of the previous lives are going to be up there. I missed last week, so I'm going to do that after we finish tonight. Sit down and give me some time because this past week was very hectic for me. A lot of stuff was going on. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that on the YouTube page. But just talked about a lot last week about finishing the fast, the things that I learned, things that I want to take with me um continuing on with the fast if I'm not fasting, but things I want to take with me that I did on the fast. How about that? So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's how I'm feeling. We're gonna talk more about that as we get into the topic, the meat and potatoes of the topic tonight. So yeah, we'll talk more about that soon. But what we do here in our check-in, we have this nice little thing called the line dynamic that I'm going to swap to so we can start discussing how we're really feeling. So, one second. I think this is right. Yay, let's go, let's go, let's go. So, with that being said, how are we feeling right now? Where are we at on the line? And so, if you guys are new here, what we have here is this thing called the line dynamic that we curated here, where it helps us depict or translate visually where we're at mentally, right? So starting from the top down, being above the line, all you guys can see all these happy, energetic emojis which replicate when we're above the line. That's how we feel. We feel happy. We feel excited. We feel good, right? And that's the aim of the game, honestly, is to be above the line as much as we can, right? As much as we possibly can control, right? Because we can't control everything. So if we can't control it, hopefully we can aim to be as close to above the line as we can, right? And when I am above the line, it is something that I try to hold on to as long as I can. I try to spread positivity around others so they can emulate that and push that into me whenever I need it. Um, and it's something something I try to hold on to. I'm very appreciative of when I am and where I strive to be. So yes, being above the line is the goal, is the top tier goal. sometimes, we don't really hit that, and sometimes things are just meh, and things are just okay. Things are just a okay, and that depiction is just being on the line. Things aren't horrible, and things aren't just amazing in that moment, right? But being on the line is not a bad thing. It just means things are okay. Things are consistent. I'm at a neutral place right now. And in this day and age, I've noticed that most people land there, and being there for me is not a bad thing. As I said, it's just a place where you can really gauge, hey, this is where I'm at. I want to be above the line. I definitely don't want to be below it, but maybe all I have the energy to do right now is to just be okay. And in this day and age, in this generation, sometimes that's all we can really do, and that's a okay. And so last, but definitely not least, is our final tier, which means being below the line. And as the emojis show at the bottom of the screen, it's not really good. It's frustrating. It's hard to deal with. It means we're not in a good headspace. Things around us right now could be horrible. And as all things are, all of these levels are all temporary. And so that's something I try to keep in mind when I am below the line, is that it's temporary. And if I'm so far below the line that I'm unable to really control my emotions, or at least not let them seep into other people, I isolate. I sit in the stuff and I acknowledge, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Shout outs to this thing called the feelings wheel that we have here, where we use to depict exactly the emotions we're feeling. That way we can put a name to it, acknowledge it, and then move on from it, right? And so when I am so far below the line, I tend to sit in my stuff and I look at what caused me to get here. What did I do that caused me to get here? Sometimes we get below the line and it's outside of our control, right? All we really can control is how we react to the things life throws at us, right? And I'm starting to put more effort into reacting more in a positive way than a negative way. And so when I'm below the line, I stay to myself if it's bad. And when I'm able to reach out to other people, I reach out to my support system, right? And for me, that consists of my friends, family, professional help, so like therapy, as well as spiritual help. So God, obviously, I won't say obviously, but God for me is obvious. My spiritual leaders and my church family, right? And when I'm, like I said, so far below the line and I'm able to reach out without it bleeding onto other people, I try to reach out to all these things at once because I know something's got to give. Something's going to give me a push in the right direction for me to be at least closer to grabbing the line, right? Or with ultimately with the goal of reaching above the line, right? So, with that being said, where are we tonight, today, or this evening, this afternoon, wherever it is, whatever time it is for you? Where are we at on the line? So I'm going to give you guys a few moments to gather your thoughts, to figure out where we're at right now, and we can continue on. So I'll be right back. Where are we at on the line today? So for me, I'm very much above the line. I'm excited about things happening this month, I got things planned. I'm above the line also because some of the sacrifices that I have been making for myself, I have seen them affect those around me in a positive way as well. Even if it may be something that they weren't intentionally trying to work on themselves, I've noticed that my change and my discipline and my obedience has poured over to them. Kind of like how we were talking about being below the line. Sometimes your emotions are so out of control that you don't want them to spill over to other people. I have been at a place where the positive changes I have made for myself are starting to spill over to those around me, and they're, working on themselves and finding um ways to motivate themselves and push themselves to greater heights. So I'm very excited and happy about that. So that's one thing that has really pushed me above the line today, is seeing that seeing my hard work on myself pay off for those close to me, right? Um, yeah, and always just being here, y'all being in the chat, being, chatters. Shout outs to the Four Seasons community. It has always a blessing for me to come here, to have my lights, my electricity, my internet, my voice, my feet, my body to still here, my mind to still be here, my body to still be here, to curate and share this space and this time with you guys. So I am very much above the line today. What's up, Leo Weechi? Hey, where we at, everyone? I'm above the line, though, and feeling great. Glad to be here. I'm happy to hear that, brethren. I'm happy to hear that you're above the line because you deserve to be above the line, bro. A Wise Dream says above the line a smidge. Okay, okay, we'll take it. We'll take it. Hey, you got a smile on your face. You feeling good a little bit? Hey, I'll take it. It's hard to do that nowadays. So whenever we got it, we got to be thankful and grateful that we have it. So with that being said, our line dynamic out the way, let us move on to the meat and potatoes of what today is. So the word of the week is lust. So with that being said, what are your guys' first thoughts when you hear or see the word lust? I'm going to give you guys some time to ponder on that for a little bit, and we will continue on here in the next few minutes. All right, all right, all right. We are back. So, with the word of the day being lust, what are you guys' first thoughts when you hear or see the word lust? So for me, first thing that comes to mind, obviously, I guess is sex. I think of the color red. I think of sensualness. Outside of the sexual connotation of that, I think of being obsessive over something. I think being in a mindset where you're unable to control how you feel towards whatever it is you're lusting for. And lust, like I said, is more than just sexual. I feel like it's an obsession over something, over a fantasy, where you put things aside, specifically God, moral values aside, to try to attain this physical thing. Um, yeah, those are my first thoughts when I think of lust. Leo Witchy says fire, full metal. Okay, full metal. Mixed emotions, desire, fickle, greed, thoughts. I love that. A Wise Dream says pornography, favoring the flesh over the spirit. Say that. Sex, money, power. Definitely, definitely. Really great, great, great first thoughts. We seem to be all on the same page. Um, it seems to be an attack on the mind, right? An attack on the spirit, where we lean more into flesh things when we need to, I guess, lean more into the spirit, right? So let us move into the clear cut definition, courtesy of Merriam Webster and the niggas, right? The definition of lust is to have an intense desire or need, a crave of some sort, the crave. Usually intense or unbridled sexual desire. I feel like when we talk about lust, the first thing that comes to mind is something sexual. For most people, some people it's not, but I feel like how society has categorized lust as a word. It tends to favor that side of it, right? But as we said earlier, you can lust after things that aren't sexual. So, like a Wise Dream said, sex, money, power. Leo Ichi says, desire, a desire for other things. A desire, a crave, just like the definition says, right? So, um, let us go ahead and dive more into how we're going to talk about the topic tonight. Un momento. Let me change my scene. All right, perfect. So, with us defining lust, giving our first thoughts, and just getting a better understanding of how we're going to dive into the topic tonight, we're going to move into our four seasons of understanding. And what that is us talking about the word of the week in four different veins, right? We talk about it mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, right? So those are the four seasons of understanding for us here. So let us move into season one, which is mental. So let's talk about lust in the mental aspect. Um, so I pose a question as I was coming up with my thoughts for this topic tonight. Is lust the start of love? Does it start mentally? Um, I asked this question because, I want to have an understanding of what the difference between being attracted to someone and lusting after them. Um, I have always felt like it's always been a fine line. Um, I often go back to childhood when we had crushes. I feel like everybody's had a crush on somebody, right? Especially in childhood age, you have a crush on somebody. And to be honest, for me, I would say almost like every time I was in school, I had a crush on somebody. And sometimes, especially I would say in college, crushes led me to be more studious, if I'm not mistaken. I would come to those classes that I had a crush with somebody on more religiously than I would any other class. Um, I would zhuzh myself up to make sure I'm on my tens. I look good, especially if my crush is there. Um, and so, in an odd way, that distraction allowed me to be more studious at some places at some points. Now, there have been times where crushes were in some unsavory places for me. And I shouldn't be in those places. But I was infatuated with this person. And so I'm curious if, we are able to see when our crushes or people that we're attracted to or things that we're attracted to, not even just people, when they lean more over to lusting over it. Um, I feel like being attracted and having crushes can be innocent because I don't think that's something we can turn off as being attracted to somebody. I like how this person, and it's not even just physical attraction. I'm talking about mentally, like being attracted to somebody, right? I like how this person figures things out. I like how this person talks. I like this person's mindset, right? I'm attracted to these conversations with this person or these people. And that doesn't have to be physical because I have had mental crushes on people that I did not physically find attractive. Um, Now, when does it turn into lust? I wrote down attraction turns into infatuation, infatuation turns into obsession, and obsession turns into lust, right? That's just how I see it. Um, I think when we get to a point where we like envision physically, us being with them, or we're at a point where we put things that are happening in our reality aside so we can stay into this fantasy of what we have for this person or these things, right? Unfortunately, as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about gaming. Sometimes we have a lustful pull towards gaming life or towards that fantasy world, right? Our real life may be messed up in this moment, and we know that, oh, if I go into this game, I don't have to think about what's happening in real life. I can just be away in this place. And so sometimes you fantasize and you yearn, and maybe you miss work. I've had these instances where you miss work because you wanted to be on the game. You wanted to be in a place or in a mindset where you did not have to worry about reality, right? And I believe that's where lust goes. It leads us to a fantasy where we just want to be comfortable in it. Um, Yeah, so basically my understanding is lust is more than sex. It's when we turn attraction into infatuation, infatuation into obsession, and obsession grows into lust. Um it's sometimes what drives us towards something. Often in extremes in fantasies, right? So that is lust from the mental aspect in season one of the four seasons of understanding, right? So moving into the second season, which is physical lust. So this is where we talk about lusting, physically being attracted to someone, wanting sexual experiences with that person, encounters with that person. Um, for me, I have had issues, sometimes lusting without even intentionally wanting to lust after somebody, right? I would see somebody like, ooh, that person's fine. And then that person's fine turns into, I want to sleep with this person. I wonder what this person got. I wonder what they look like naked. Um, and it happens in a blink of an eye for me. It has happened in a blink of an eye for me. And it's got to a point where I would see somebody or a specific type of person that I'd be attracted to. And I just instantly go into that, right? It's like 0 to 100. And being transparent, I would say, um, majority of my life I have identified as a gay male, so I have lived the gay male lifestyle, right? And a lot of dating happened on dating apps, right? And what is so unfortunate about the gay community is that a large portion of it seems to be so superficial. It's based on how you look, based on sexual positions more so than actually getting a genuine connection about somebody mentally, right? It's all about the physical, and this is my own experience, right? It seems as though the initial connection is based on physical attraction, not mental attraction, not shared experiences or hobbies or any of the sort. It's like, what's your position? You top, you bottom, you verse. What is it? What are you into? What is your body type? All those things. And it's so superficial. Um, I can, for one of my, say I have not, you know, dabbled in any of that in almost over a year right now. And I'm thankful for that because when I was, it was just so shallow and so vapid, and it was lust, physically lusting. Um, and I felt like the gay community, like I said, attraction is based on the physicality, sexual position compatibility, and openness to broader ranges of sexual activities. And I'm pretty sure, heterosexuals have the same, issues. I'm sure. I think it's just a generational thing where what you do sexually is at the forefront. What you look like physically is on the forefront when it comes to dating, when it comes to looking for a partner. Where I think that's the problem. We need to lust, or not even lust, we need to look at the other things and have a better understanding of who it is that we want to deal with. Um, but yeah, that's where I feel like lust is for me in the physical. Getting aroused, getting erect, wanting the physical of someone over everything else that they have to offer. Putting everything else on the back burner and just focusing on how can this person please me physically, right? Or how can I please them physically? Um, so yeah, that's the second season of Lust being physical. We move into the third season, which is emotional, right? And so we talk about lust in an emotional standpoint, from an emotional lens. For me, I think this is one of my biggest ones that I've struggled with. Wanting that emotional connection that comes from lust, really leaning into the feels. And so for me, um, in my past, I would use the physical aspect of, being sexual, whatnot, for not the sexual gratification, but what comes with that, the emotional connections, the intimacy. And I would lust for intimacy more so than the sexual acts, right? And so because in the community that I was in, you to get to that, you kind of get to the other one, right? So, uh, lusting for intimacy led to abusing sex, or being used for sex to get that intimacy feeling. The cuddling, the affection, that I was a big lover, or chaser of those things, right? Um, the thing I was chasing after the things that should be a part of sexual encounters. And even growing up, I would chase after the intimacy, but not get the intimacy. I would do everything but get the intimacy out of it, right? So I would be left feeling used or misused because I didn't get what I want, yet whoever I was with got what they want, right? Um, and so as I've grown to be who I am today, I'm trying to be intimate with myself. I take myself out on dates, I'm learning to love myself and understanding that, those who want to love me are going to have to put in a lot of work, more than just physical, to gain that. Because my intimacy and the love that I give to people, is high octane. It's high octane. It's genuine from the tap. So, yeah, I lean into a lot of things nowadays for myself that give me that. Negating the physical to have a more emotional connection, um is where I'm at mentally, right? um and then also lusting for that can lead to doing things that you may not align with, solely to feed the need for or lust for the emotional connection. Like I said, that is something I had issues with, doing things I didn't want to do solely for that intimacy, that lust for connection, that lust for wanting to be a part, that lust for wanting to be with someone, right? It was a hold on me. So I would be in positions where I shouldn't have. I would be doing things that I shouldn't be doing solely to get that to scratch that itch, right? And so, last but definitely not least, we move into the final season of the four seasons of understanding, which is spiritually. So we talk about lust, in a spiritual aspect, right? We talk about how that is. So within spirituality, lust is compulsive desires that put self gratification above the love of God. Um, where I'm at with my journey, with being tied to my church and trying to be closer to God, I've learned that lust was a big issue for me. Especially going to this new church, I would have lustful thoughts of some of the people in the congregation, and I'd be like, why am I having these thoughts? Yes, I'm attracted to people, but why does it have to move further from just attraction in my mind, right? Um, and to be honest, um, sometimes I still, but as of now, my thoughts are not as lustful when I go to church anymore. I don't think about those people in the same aspect or the same mindset anymore. I see them differently, and even now, even though I do see them differently, I think it's all because of God, because I give it to God. I'm like, okay, why am I having these thoughts? God, remove these thoughts from me. Remove this, because this is not what, definitely not in the place to be to have these thoughts. So, get this out of my mindset, right? And so He has helped me tremendously with that. Um, some of my notes that I'm reading here, an intense craving for something other than God, power, money, pleasure. That's exactly what Wise said. Money and power. And those thoughts, sometimes we put those above God, our thirst for it. Sometimes, people lust after the grind of money. Hey, I need money to do this, this, and this. So I'm going to work myself like a dog 24/7, getting money because I need it. That's lust. You're putting these things over God. You may not be going to church. You may not be reading the Bible as frequently. You may not be praying like you used to. But you're so quick to do these other things. Oh my gosh, I'm talking to myself right now, y'all. Um, I have been struggling after this fast, because some of the things that I was fasting for, I leaned back into. Not everything, which I'm grateful for, but there have been some things I definitely have leaned back into after the fast. And I am at a place where I am looking at what kept me going during the fast and what has caused me to fall off a little bit, one thing my pastor preached during Bible study this past Wednesday was that failure is not final. And God gives us grace. Grace has a standard. There are standards in grace. So we can't just intentionally keep messing up and thinking we're going to get grace. We have to put the effort into the change. We have to give God our hard things. We have to do what is right. We have to try to walk on the right line. But we are not perfect. We are human and sometimes we mess up. And I was watching a podcast that was saying that even when we mess up, pray to God, give it to God, ask God for clarity. Even when we're at that crossroads where we're at that mark where we're right about to make a bad decision, we're about to make that lustful, sinful decision, we have to give it to God and ask God to pray. And even sometimes while we're doing the sinful acts, we have to ask forgiveness. We have to ask God to help us to stop it, because we're putting those personal feelings, the pleasure of the flesh above God. And that's the sin. Um and also I'm learning that, not everything that is good or makes us feel good is a sin. We can live godly lives without giving up fun or entertainment. It's just in a different vein. It's what we're actually consuming, and that's what I'm learning as well. Um, the sin of lust has its roots in the belief that God's love is not enough to satisfy our longing for intimacy. That is a quote that I found in my research, and it hit a lot. So I'm gonna say it again. The sin of lust has its roots in the belief that God's love is not enough to satisfy our longing for intimacy. And that has always been an issue for me, is that I have longed for intimacy so much in my life. Being an only child, I've longed for intimacy through family, family dynamics, friends, relationships, romantic, platonic. I have longed for intimacy from all of those things, right? And because I have longed for that, I've put that over God. I would do things that are ungodly or not aligned with God to go after that lust for intimacy, right? And I'm working on that now. That's something I'm working on. But yes, ultimately, that's where season of spirituality and lust is. In my honest opinion, crushes and attractions are natural. However, when it comes to becoming obsessive, fantasies created and putting those feelings above God, that is where lust is created. That's where I believe. I'm gonna drop this video in the chat because y'all know I don't gatekeep. I love sharing things that help me. But I think he really hit realistically on the things that we struggle um when it comes to lust, just the realistic aspect of it, because it we all have these struggles, right? But it's just how we prevent them and just basically running away from it, fleeing from it, actively cleaning our social medias, actively giving things to God, being active in reading the scripture and being around people who are centered around being more Christ-like, right? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to add all these things at once, right? But ultimately, it is something we should not be embarrassed about. It is something we not should not beat ourselves up about when we do. It is something that everybody struggles with. So, just keep that in mind. So, we are at our wrap up. Shout outs to everyone for coming out tonight. Shout outs to the lurkers, the followers, the subs, and everybody in between. I thank y'all so much. Shout outs to the Four Season community for holding it down for me in the chat and being very present and being active. Thank y'all for that. What we do here as we close out is our know for sure. So basically what it is that I know for sure from the beginning of the episode of the podcast to where we're at now. What I know for sure is that lust happens to everybody, regardless of your position, sexual orientation, your gender, all that stuff. We all have lustful thoughts, and it doesn't even have to be sexual. We can lust after things that aren't physical. We can lust after money. We can lust after power, anything that takes our thought process away from God being the priority, and we put that over Him, right? Anything like that is our lust, right? And as Johnny Chang said in the video, it is something that we all deal with. So learning not to beat myself up about it, learning that maybe putting a light on it helps not only myself but other people who may be struggling with the same thing I'm lusting after, right? Those are things that I would say I know for sure after this episode of Lust. Um, so with that being said, with the start of the new year in progress, I have started a life coaching program called Through the Seasons. It's a small 4-week coaching experience for people who feel unseen, who are struggling with emotions, or may be in between chapters right now in life. And they just may need a space for someone to be heard, to walk with them, or to find clarity. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and type coach in the chat. Email me or DM me here on Twitch to get more information about that. Also, for any notifications of when I go live or when I upload on YouTube or any other coaching activities that are happening, you can join the Discord here as well in the chat. I also have my YouTube for all the VODs, all the shorts that happen here on this channel. They're on the YouTube page as well, so go ahead and follow that. Last but definitely not least, I have my co-working stream here on this channel every Saturday at 11 a.m. EST. It is a place where we hold each other accountable, we get things done, we get productive, and it feels good, you know? So if you have chores, if you have meetings, if you have things that you need to do, that you may need a little or may need a group to help you hold yourself accountable, come here every Saturday at 11 a.m. EST, and that's what we have going on. But yeah, with that being said, thank you to the Four Seasons community. Thank you to all of my followers, lurkers, subscribers, and everyone in between. I thank you so much for being here, for being present. But without further ado, be good to yourselves and be good to everyone else, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.